Hey, what's going on everyone? My name is Donovan and today we're going to do an unboxing and quick first look at a brand new device from Umidigi. This is the Umidigi F1. It's available right now, actually as of about 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's available right now on Amazon.com. Oh, unfortunately it says currently unavailable. Alright, so when it is available on Amazon.com, again, it will be available for $219. However, there's a 5% discount that brought it down to right around $209 for me when I picked it up. I picked up the red version, as you can see right here, and we'll take a look at it in just a moment. But it is also available on places like Banggood.com and GearBest.com, so I'll leave a link in the description for all three of those locations, and hopefully soon it will be available on Amazon as well. So as far as what we have under the hood here, we have a MediaTek 6771 processor that's also known as the Helio P20 or P60 processor. We have 4 cores of A73 clocked at 2.0 gigahertz and 4 cores of A53s clocked at 2.0 gigahertz. We have Android 9.0, so Android Pie, so that's a nice upgrade from this device right here. Now, just for fun, we'll just do a quick comparison. This is the Umidigi One Max. It's $179. This one has the Helio P23 processor. Same clock speed here, but this one has an octa-core processor, but they're all A53 versus the A73s you get here, so definitely faster processor you have here. This one has Android 8.1, this one has Android 9.0. They both have 4 gigs of RAM, both have 128 gigs of storage, both have dual nano SIM cards, and both actually work for 4G LTE. But this one, well, actually both of them have this as well. You can use a nano SIM card and a SD card, micro SD card, or 2 SIM cards if you want. This one has a 5150 milliamp hour battery versus a 4150 over here. This one has a 6.3 inch full HD plus display, which means you're getting a 1080p display stretched out into that 6.3 inch display, whereas over here you have a 6.3 inch display but 720p, and honestly the 720p I don't mind at all on the One Max. So other things worth mentioning here, so we have dual back-firing cameras, so 16 and 8 megapixel cameras on the back, and a 16 megapixel front-facing shooter, and all kinds of LTE bands that you see down here. Those are the FDD ones. So this will work on AT&T, T-Mobile. I've been using this one. The One Max also has the same bands on Mint Mobile. As you can see right down here, it's been working fantastic on Mint Mobile, so that's a T-Mobile MVNO if you didn't know that already. So it'll work on Metro PCS, Cricket. Also, it works on Verizon, so just a quick heads up there if you're interested in checking it out on Verizon. So let's go ahead and unbox this thing, and as always we get an Umidigi thank you card, and you can enter some giveaways through some social media there. We have also a fast charger, so this has 18-watt fast charging, so awesome, super cool. We have our Type-C cable here for charging it up, the classic Umidigi red cable that you always get, and I think we have a SIM card under here, SIM card removal tool I mean, and then also our booklets. That's pretty much it. We can kind of cast that all to the side because obviously the main attraction here is the Umidigi F1. So first of all, you can see that they always include screen protectors, so that's fantastic because, yeah, it's really hard to find screen protectors for a phone like this. So you can see, hopefully I didn't peel off, yep, it's still there. Alright, so we have a screen protector on there already. Now they do also have a screen protector on the back, or I guess a back protector is what you'll call it. So we have a fingerprint sensor on the back versus over here on the One Max we have it over on the side. We'll compare up the sizes in just a little bit as well. We have our power button and volume rocker over here. Let's go ahead and power it on. 16 megapixel camera up front. Now that does have an earpiece up here. On the One Max that's a speaker, so we'll have to test out and see if it's a speaker on the F1, because honestly I don't know off the top of my head because I didn't do my research before, but I'm guessing that it probably is. So those are our dual cameras in the back. I do kind of like it. This one's actually more like an iPhone in terms of the LED light being there versus underneath the 2 cameras. So here it's in the middle, kind of cool. I really like the texture. It almost has like a, I don't know, has a little bit of a grippy texture to it. I thought it would be slippery, but it's not. So really I'm digging that red color there. Let's get that back into focus. Down on the bottom, obviously we have a speaker, we have a microphone, we have our headphone jack and Type-C for charging it up. Again, it does fast charge. We have another microphone over there. And there is our SIM tray. Now I'm going to be using it. I'm actually going to be swapping out the SIM card from Mint Mobile from my One Max over to this one because I'm going to be using this one for a bit. So I'm going to get it set up. We'll see how all of this stuff works on the Umidigi F1. I'll be doing some tests on it as well, and we'll get back to you in just a moment. Alright, so I've been using the Umidigi F1 for the last 24 hours. I've had it set up with all of my apps. Basically, I just pulled over all of my apps from my Google Pixel 3 XL. So this thing is fully loaded. After fully loading all of my apps on it, I still have about 107 gigs remaining of storage. So that's fantastic. Obviously, you can add a micro SD card over here in the SIM tray as well. Or you can use dual SIM cards for dual 4G LTE, which is really cool. A couple things worth mentioning about the device. First of all, yes, it does support voice over LTE, so I'm using it with Mint Mobile, and so it does support voice over LTE with Mint Mobile, and it does also support, I didn't mean to do that, but I did anyways, but it does also support Wi-Fi calling as well. So if I turn the Wi-Fi on here, you'll see that it does actually support Wi-Fi calling as well. So that's both very cool things. Also, I didn't mention this earlier, but it does have NFC for mobile payments as well. As far as the screen goes, this is definitely a nice upgrade. 1080p versus what you get on the One Max, which is a 720p. This is a $40 more expensive phone. So again, this is $219 versus the One Max being $179. But the upgrades from the One Max to the F1 for me are definitely worth it. Now you do get a couple of things that you're missing. So this one supports wireless charging, whereas you don't get that here on the F1, but I think the things that you gain are definitely worth it. So let's go ahead and talk about some of those things. Number one being the processing power. So if I go in here to Geekbench 4, I'll go ahead and show you the couple scores that I ran here. So number one, this is the most recent one I just took a couple hours ago, or maybe just an hour ago. So you can see the multi-core score of 5776, single core score of 1500. Now that is definitely a mid-range processor. It's definitely not as fast as something like a flagship. With a flagship device, you would expect something more like an 8,000 to a 10,000 score, something like the Snapdragon 845 processor. So the Helio P60 processor that this has is a good processor, still not a flagship, but again, we're talking about a $219 phone. So that's just one thing worth mentioning. The Geekbench 4 score is solid. It definitely has handled everything I've thrown at it so far. I've really not had any hiccups on the device. So that's a huge thumbs up. Processing power is great. I definitely think it'll handle games a whole lot better than the One Max. Now the One Max did handle most games quite well. You could even play PUBG on it. It's not the smoothest experience, but here you get a 720p display versus a 1080p display. So that's also a nice upgrade. Again, they're both 6.3 inches. They both have that teardrop, but then a couple other nice things here. We have Android 9.0. Again, Umidigi does a fantastic job with their software, so I'm going to go ahead and go in here to the settings, wherever they might be. Obviously, they're in alphabetical order, so go in here to the settings. So again, we have Android 9.0, so it has definitely a different look than Android 8.1 that the One Max had. And then we have a couple other things here. So we have some Smart Assistant features here. So we have the buttons, Network Manager, App Blocker, Flip to Mute, Screen Capture, and then Sweep. I'm just going to go ahead and show you this buttons one here real quick, because you notice that there are no software keys here, and that's because I've turned them off. So that is a nice option to have. So we have slippery gestures, and that's what these are down here. So basically you can just swipe, and I've chose to do the return on left. So that basically means a swipe to the left is the back, swipe to the middle is home, and then swipe over here to the right is my recent task. So if I go over here, I can go into my recent task. So pretty cool. I like that option. So we'll swipe over here to the left, go back, and we'll go back one more time. So those are some nice Smart Assistant options. Obviously, we have a fingerprint sensor. That is another thing that's definitely a nice upgrade. So the Umidigi One Max, and I know I keep comparing it to this device, but this is my most recent phone I've been reviewing. This one has a side-mounted fingerprint sensor. It's definitely finicky with my right thumb. It works really well, but anytime I try to use it with any of these fingers, it's very finicky. It doesn't seem to work all that well. Whereas I feel like this one's both faster and more accurate. accurate. So you saw how fast that was. So we'll do that one more time. So 1, 2, 3, and you can see kind of in real time how fast that is. It's certainly not a flagship fast fingerprint sensor, but of all Umidigi phones that I've reviewed so far, this one is definitely the fastest fingerprint sensor. Also the best cameras so far, and in every way I would say this thing is definitely the best Umidigi phone I've reviewed, and I think this one definitely is worth that $219 price point up to this point. So we do have some fingerprint options here as well, so we can do some touch functions. We can click it, double click it, and long press it, and it gives you some options to adjust, so that's really cool. So back to previous, so you can see just all the options that it has available here. So you can click it to do a screen capture. Now I don't think you really want that one because obviously you'd be taking a lot of accidental screen captures, I think, but those are options that are available, so pretty cool. I do like those features as well, so you can utilize that fingerprint sensor for more than just opening up apps, or I guess for security purposes, and then also for opening up the phone, so that's great. I do like that as well. So overall I would say the software is definitely a huge plus. I want to go ahead and show you some speed tests real quick as well. Again, I'm using this with Mint Mobile. And we're going to go in here to the results. So this Wi-Fi result is definitely not a super accurate result. I'm going to go ahead and do one more live here on the camera, just so you can see it. My kids were actually watching Netflix during the first one, so that's definitely a little off. But here are my LTE speeds in terms of what I get with T-Mobile or Mint Mobile. They're using the same service. Now with my iPhone, if I were to do the exact same thing right now, or even my Google Pixel 3 XL, that would be closer to like 80 or 90 megabits per second. So definitely not as fast, but still a solid option. I think for 40, that's not bad, or right around 40 megabits per second is not bad. But now I want to go ahead and check it out with my Spectrum here, and let's see if it gets a little bit faster now. Okay, yeah, so my kids are off the internet, and it's a whole lot faster now. So you can see that made a big difference when they're not watching Netflix. So I'm not even going to finish that up. Obviously the speeds are a whole lot faster. So speeds in terms of Wi-Fi, definitely solid. A little bit slower with LTE, but still very worthy. And overall so far, I would say this phone has just been absolutely fantastic. The last thing I want to show you is the speaker. Now I was kind of thinking that this might have dual speakers just like you have with the One Max, so that is something you're going to miss out on because they have a very identical design in terms of having a speaker down here at the bottom. They do both have the headphone jack, so that's great as well, but this one actually has a small speaker up here in the earpiece as well. But on the F1 we don't have that, so just a quick heads up on that. There is just a bottom firing speaker. But let's go ahead and fire up a song here, and I didn't have this prepared in advance, so we're going to do a quick fast forward here and play a song for you so you can hear what that bottom firing speaker sounds like. All right, so the verdict is it's definitely a loud bottom firing speaker, but it's definitely very tinny. So you don't get the bass response that you'd get from a nicer speaker on other higher end phones. So overall, it's going to be just fine for speakerphone calls, but in terms of actually playing music out of it, I definitely recommend a Bluetooth speaker connected up to it if you're going to be listening to the music off of the phone, or obviously headphones or Bluetooth headphones as well. Alright, so before I wrap up this video, I wanted to go ahead and talk about two last areas of importance when it comes to a cell phone. Again, this is just a first impressions video, but I want to talk about the cameras and the battery life on this phone. So first of all, by far, this is the best Umidigi phone, both in the cameras and in the battery life. Now, that's because this has the largest battery out of any Umidigi phone I've ever reviewed, so 5150 milliamp hour battery. I've been using it all day, and at the moment, let's see what I'm at. I believe, yeah, 52%. So that's actually really good. Been using it all day, pretty much not playing a whole lot of games or videos, but enough to definitely wear down the battery. And so I definitely think there will be no issue with getting through a full day, even of heavy usage with this device. Now, can you get through 2 days? Probably, with lighter usage, and possibly even 3 days if you're really using it lightly, but easily through one day with no problem. Now, as far as the cameras go, again, this is definitely the best cameras out of any Umidigi phone I've ever reviewed. And let's go ahead and talk about some of the things about this camera. So first of all, this is definitely not a great camera. Let me just keep that in mind, because it's only a $219 phone, and it's significantly better than what you get on the One Max, so that's again another huge upgrade, but still it's not great, and let me explain why. So first of all, with video, let's go ahead and start there. With video, there's just not a whole lot of options. You can only shoot in 1080p. We do have electronic image stabilization, so I don't really care about 4K video, but if you want 4K video on your phone, you're obviously not going to get it here. Couple other things you're not going to get. You don't get slow motion, you don't get time lapse, so those are just not options here on this device. With photo mode, if I go in here to the options, we do have zero shutter delay, so that's nice. So you can take a quick picture and the shutter is very, very quick. We have anti-shake, so that's a cool option to have. You can adjust the picture size, so that's nothing special there. We do have the Pro mode, so that's something I don't remember ever seeing before in any Umidigi phone. So you can adjust the ISO, the exposure, the white balance, things like that. So those are great to have. And then we also have the bokeh effect. So that's again where I take a picture and it's going to bokeh out anything in the background. So it's going to focus in on the foreground and it's going to blur out those things in the background. Now I'd have to actually adjust this because it's wide open right now. So let's go ahead and make it wide open, I guess is what I meant to say, because that's going to really blur out the background. Let's see if it actually works here, because obviously focusing on my hand and not the actual headphones. Let's see if we get that to work. Alright, so I'll go ahead and show you just a few pictures real quick of what I've done with the bokeh. And by far, okay, so that one obviously was a big delay, but that's because I was trying to do bokeh. Portrait mode always is going to have a delay to it. So there's a quick picture. Now this is with bokeh, but I actually had to completely close the bokeh. And let's see here. So this is a picture of some flowers. These are fake flowers, but you can see it blurred out the background pretty well. Had a nice focus on the foreground, so definitely better than any other Umidigi phone I've ever used as far as that goes. Same thing here. So my daughter's wearing a towel around her head, and then my youngest daughter, but you can see there in the background there's some nice blur to it. The details aren't necessarily great, so you can see as I focus in, the details aren't fantastic, but this was a low light photo, so that's to be expected. Again, another picture of some flowers, but the background nice and blurred out. So overall, I would say while it's not amazing, the cameras here are definitely a lot better than any other Umidigi phone I've ever used, and for $219 I think they do a pretty solid job. Again, you're definitely going to be a little bit limited on some of the effects that you get, but overall I think for an average user that's buying a phone for $219, you're probably not expecting the best cameras, and I think for most people these are going to get you through just fine. Hope this video has been helpful for you. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.